The European Union and United Kingdom say they stand with Denmark and Greenland after US President Donald Trump again raised the prospect of annexing the territory. Mr Trump maintains his country needs Greenland for national security purposes. The EU and UK have both reiterated the US must adhere to international law, with experts warning that any attack by the US would mean the end of the NATO military alliance. The US President again raised his desire to control Greenland in the hours after the US operation in Venezuela. The Prime Minister of Greenland, as well as the leader of Denmark, have both condemned the fresh comments and Mr Trump's territorial ambitions.
Firstly, I believe that the American president should be taken seriously when he says that he wants Greenland. But I also want to make it clear that if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops. That is, including our NATO, and thus the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War.
First of all, I would say that our country is not really the right one to compare with Venezuela. We are a country that is democratic and has been democratic for many, many years. And if we look at the whole picture, I can understand that people are concerned. But the cooperation that is being strengthened, the cooperation we are pursuing right now, means that we want to create, or re-establish rather, the cooperation we previously had with the United States. The situation is not such that the United States can simply conquer Greenland.
So both Denmark and Greenland say the Arctic island is not up for grabs and cannot be compared to Venezuela. Citizens of the semi-autonomous Danish Crown land are concerned after America's actions in Venezuela, saying their government must take the threat of US action seriously.
I feel like saying no, but I think we probably have to say that there are indications that he simply does whatever he wants. So yes, I think we must take Trump's statements more seriously.
In the light of Venezuela, that had come so promptly afterwards, one has to take it a bit more seriously. We also set the thoughts in motion about what he can do now that he has done what he does in Venezuela. Not that you should think that he has the same reaction towards Greenland.
It's much more serious. It suddenly came up to a completely different level, you could say. You can see that he simply does whatever suits him, which I find quite disturbing.
And Global Affairs Editor Laura Tingle joins us now. Laura, g'day, so much going on. First of all, take us through those reactions in Greenland and Denmark.
Well, you can understand why people are alarmed, given what's happened in the last 48 hours and given Donald Trump's rhetoric. But I suppose there are a couple of points here, Joe. I mean, the main one is a lot of the responses have been about the possibility of basically the US invading Greenland. And I think that what we're seeing out of Venezuela and what Donald Trump has been leading in the last few months around Latin America generally is more, okay, what's our ultimate ambition here, rather than sort of thinking about these things in terms of traditional interventions at a military level. So the question becomes, what sort of leverage or what sort of threat can Donald Trump pose to Greenland? And keep in mind that right at the beginning of his second term, of course, he was talking about buying Greenland. So I think one of the issues that's come up out of Venezuela, but which affects all of these different countries now, is actually, rather than sort of saying, is there going to be a military intervention? Is there going to be regime change? Saying, no, Donald Trump just wants all of this, or he wants it to be, subservient to the needs of the United States. What does that mean for us, and how should we be responding? It's not the old rules.
And so what are the implications for NATO, though?
Well, clearly, if the implications for NATO, if it was the case that the US was to militarily try to intervene in Greenland, that would be the end of the party. But I suppose, as a couple of those people sort of said, basically Donald Trump does whatever he wants, and there's been fairly weak commentary from the EU, for example, overnight about this, of saying, oh, well, we maintain our support for national sovereignty, but I don't think that that's really going to sort of tell someone who cares when it comes to Donald Trump.
Remind us why he has designs on Greenland.
For the same reason, I think that he has designs on Venezuela, which is one, natural resources, and two, security, and basically this view that he's put forward, and which we've discussed previously, about wanting to dominate and control the Western Hemisphere. That's the broader Americas, everywhere from Greenland right down to the tip of South America.
And more broadly on the international front now, what have you made of how Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary-General, has approached this so far? There was an emergency council meeting overnight. He issued a statement. What was said in that emergency session of the Security Council, particularly by Russia and China?
Well, once again, it's, of course, we know that Donald Trump doesn't really give a lot of value to the UN, and I think Antonio Guterres was quite strong a couple of days ago, and of course the UN Security Council and ambassadors have been speaking in, tough terms here, but, tell someone who cares as far as Donald Trump is concerned. There's not a lot that could happen. They tried to, they made similar comments after General Noriega was taken from Panama in 1989. And it meant nothing. But clearly, what the world is alarmed about is this shift that Donald Trump is allowing in the breakdown of the international system, which gives most countries no clawback if countries like Russia and China do something similar.